What is up, Retro Maniacs? Welcome to Retro Card Chat Podcast. My name is still Mike, and I'm still from Mike's Retro Trading Cards. And I'm joined by two men that love to talk about cards, but only one guy actually likes to go to the card show with the host of the show. The other one is too busy out there at his fancy restaurants. They are, of course, EP and Joe Day, and I'll let you guys decide which one you think is which.
EP, how was dinner last night? I assume he was talking about you. I'll tell you what.
He does look like a fancy restaurant kind of guy.
I mean, to be fair to the viewers, I'm wearing a Mike's Retro shirt and a pit hat. It's not like I'm looking like I'm going to nice restaurants either. First things first, I'm going to crack open a beer because I'm going to need a little bit of a chaser because if you remember, our guy Paul, who won your little giveaway.
Yes.
Also wanted Joe Day to do a shot. So I'm going to pour my beer. And Paul, I've got a special one for you. Since it is early when we tape this, I'm going to need the electrolytes. So first things first, little Jack.
Wow.
We ain't messing around. We ain't messing around, Paul. Now this is a shot and a half. I'm only going to pour it halfway through. A little bit more than half. All right. There's my shot of Jack. Now, have you boys ever heard of a pickleback?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Got my pickle juice as well. All right. We're going to do a little pickleback shot. I need the electrolytes. I need something for a little breakfast feel to it. So congratulations, Paul.
I'm going to add a drum roll here.
If you see me like fall over after this. Cheers. Congratulations, Paul. That was great.
It looked it. Yeah.
It was good. I'll tell you what, just real smooth.
The look on your face just says all kinds of smooth. Are you tearing up?
Wow.
The pickle juice was really spicy. But other than that, it was great. Let me just parch some of the get that palate cleaned out here real quick.
How's it going, EP?
Great. I was glad the company, Mike's Retro Trading Cards picked up the $30 entry fee into the show yesterday. That was great. So
$1.
Thank you to our sponsor, Mike's Retro Trading Cards.
That's right.
Yeah.
They treat their employees well. I know you're not used to that, but yeah, I try to do my best. Keep everybody happy. Yeah.
I also think that you should put up a little like an email address where if Jack Daniels wants to sponsor us and send us all Jack Daniels, just put something up there so we can all.
Wow. That's got to be worth at least $2 right there.
It should get us into the next card show.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, the big news of the week, EP and I hit the local card show. That was a nice little show. It was held at the Shikellamy High School in Sunbury, PA, and that place was packed, EP.
Yeah. For a high school gym show, like holy cow! When we first walked in, I couldn't the crowd. Like you could barely walk through. They had the very first aisle on the left hand side. Like it was there were people standing at all the tables, so you had like one lane you could walk through.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty impressive, and lots of dealers too. Like I was surprised that overall just surprised how many card people were there and how much card stuff was there.
Yeah, it was really I was surprised when I walked in. And like you said, saw the number of dealers and the people. Like I know that first aisle there, I didn't get to look at any cards because there was nowhere to look at cards. So that's why I had walked down to the end of the aisle. I was basically for the first half hour or so we were there just walking around trying to find somewhere that had open space to be able to look. So
yeah, that was busier than the last card show you guys went to.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it was too. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, all kinds of stuff there. EP, I know you bought some stuff. I might have bought a couple things myself. Yeah, I spent way too much money and spent it way too quickly. So yeah, if I had to do over again, I might have,
But you're getting all that channel money. You're
That's
getting all
true.
the channel money that you're just
it's all an expense. Yeah, I have to do it for the channel.
I only spent $38. I got some really, really great deals.
I tell you what,
so like
10 of those dollars you spent, dude, that was a clutch. Tell the viewers. I mean, I got a text about it. I literally thought you only got the 10.
No, I got a 1992 Marvel Masterpieces tin, and I
Which
popped
is
it open.
behind
And,
you.
yeah, I put it up right behind me. Where is it? There it is.
Yeah.
Somewhere there.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I opened it up and had the card. That's had some cards in there. I didn't pull the cards out to look at them at the thing. I was like, I put the lid on. I was like, hey, how much for this? And he said $10. So I took it for $10. It actually has the set along with the Spectre Battle set and the Lost Ladies of Marvel set. So
Wow.
has a complete sets. Now the cards weren't in super great condition, so there was some bricking going on. But I mean, one of them is probably gradable, possibly a 10, and then a bunch of other ones are potentially stack sale. Or I mean, like also the set's pretty awesome. So I might actually
the
keep it at
Battle
$10.
Spectre cards you can get even in okay condition. You can get like $10-15 each on eBay. I know. And then the Lost Ladies, I told you I sold a set of them for like $150.
Like singles are listed for like $50 or $60.
Yeah,
for those cards.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Had I done it, I should have done it differently. I really should have sold them as singles, but yeah, I sold the whole set. But still, $150 if you sell the whole set. I mean, that's $140 of profit considering you paid $10 for the whole thing. That was the steal of the show. I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was happy to get a box of 91 Score Series 2 for $10 also.
Of course.
But it's not
Junk Wax you what?
Yeah. But no, I mean that was by far a great deal. So
as an aside, as you're talking about Junk Wax and I use the term lovingly Junk Wax, the three of us did all block someone on Twitter who disparaged Junk Wax. They were done. So that's
we don't mess around.
Yep. We don't need you. We don't need that negativity in our lives.
Those are fighting words.
It's blasphemy. Yeah.
Yep. I spent $300 there. Very quickly, as we said, very quickly. I bought a dealer out of all his like Michael Jordan cards and Shaquille O'Neal cards, and probably paid a little more than I really wanted to for those, but I guess I was looking to buy. Found a couple guys there. A guy had this couple boxes of baseball Hall of Famers, 50 cents a card. And I went through both of his boxes and I picked out 50 cards out of there. Got a lot of really cool stuff out of that for 50 cents a piece. That was fantastic. John,
also, I got to interrupt you for a second. That same dealer, I was there looking after you. After you were there, I was right as you were finishing up. I swept in and took a couple of Ripkins, a couple of really cool cards from there, 50 cents each. But as I'm sitting there going through the cards, the dealer that was handling that table, like there were two guys are buddies there, I think. But he called over a kid, said, hey, there comes a little guy. He said, hey, come here. And he pointed to a bunch of like bobbleheads he has there, and he said, hey, pick one of these. And the kid's like, what?
He gave away
and
3 of those just in the time that I was standing at the table. Like he was looking for some kids to give that stuff away to, and he gave away some cards too. The other guy did. So yeah, that was really
Did
cool.
He offer you one EP? I mean, you did look young.
No.
I was going to tell him that, this is my little kid.
This is my son.
This is my 10-year-old son. He can't grow facial hair, so it's true.
I did thank him though. I think that's an awesome thing. And he said that he just does that at shows. Whenever they're at shows, the two of them like give stuff away. That was great. Sorry to interrupt you, Mike. I just wanted to make sure to point that out because I thought that was a really cool gesture from somebody. And he said to me after I thanked him, he's like, you got to keep kids interested. He said, or the hobby's going to die. It's like, absolutely 100%.
Yep. So, they were talking about that quite a bit. Like I said, I was standing there for probably at least a half an hour and, I was talking to him and stuff. And, we shared the experience too. He was talking about, he had all this stuff and there was somebody that was interested in buying it. And he went through everything, worked up a price, got all this stuff and never heard from the guy. And I was telling him my stories about doing that on Twitter, how, people ask about cards, how, you take the time to take pictures, send them to them, then you never hear from them again. So yeah, we bonded a little bit over our misery of people making you do work and then not caring to even tell you no. Like that was the point. Like, why can't they just say no?
Right.
So, but yeah, I also bought a box of Chronicles WWE Wrestling from John that owns Yukon Cards and Comics, my favorite card shop. Yeah. So if I would have had more money, I would have bought more of them. But you had a couple of them there, and I even apologized.
You didn't bring
to
the
him.
plastic?
Well, I mean, nobody was taking plastic or anything there. So, And I told him, I said, I only have so much cash. I'm sorry. If I would have known you were going to be here, I would have got more. So yeah, pretty good time. I got some wrestling cards too from another dealer that I bought wrestling cards from some of the mall shows that we've gone to. So yeah, great time. And I'm looking forward to the next mall show because the people were there that I bought like that 3,200 count box of stack sale cards last time at the mall show. They were there. They said somebody actually came and bought a couple boxes from him there, but he said he'd bring more to the next mall show. I'm like, okay, I'll be there for it and I will look you up. So yeah, good time though. A lot of fun there.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for going, John.
Next one. I'll try and come to the next one. I have these reservations for a month. I there's nothing I could do.
I don't know. Do you even collect? Like, come on. All right.
Bro,
well,
you gotta throw a bro in when you say that.
Bro.
Like bro.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I stumbled across an interview with Chris McGill he's a co-founder of Card Ladder. It was on Sports Collectors Daily. And it was pretty much a general overview of the 2022 card market. Some interesting stuff in there. The vintage card market was down 5% for the year, even though there were some really big sales. You know, we saw the $12 million Mantle, we saw some other really big cards, but that was actually down. I guess it was up until like the last 3 months of the year, and then it was down like 11%, and that took it down for the year. Pre-war vintage was actually up 29%. But our main talking point here today was the modern and ultra modern were down 30%. I mean, not sure any of us are really surprised by that. I don't think anybody really is because everything spiked up so high, but there are some actual numbers now showing that the hobby is contracting.
Yeah, I was the pre-war stuff I can't get into. I mean I'm not going to financially get into it, but it just I've never really been interested. And to see that only be down or to be up and then vintage to only be down 5%, that's got to make people that are invested in that stuff actually pretty happy, because then when you look at the modern and ultra modern, 30+% down is crazy. But again, like you said, Mike, it's not anything we're shocked by. I mean, It's been coming month after month after month. I keep track of my Brady rookie card collection, what I paid for them, what they're currently valued at, and things like that. And you can see it in those. I mean, nothing is immune right now, whether it's modern or ultra modern, which is just printed to oblivion. So, there's only so much that stuff could be worth. The reason that pre-war and vintage are worth so much and pretty steady is because there's not much of it. It's real scarcity, not the fake scarcity that they have nowadays with numbered parallels, cards numbered to 99 and 49 and 149 and 299. I mean, so there's actual scarcity with those cards. There's not going to be any more Mantle rookies. There's not going to be any more 52 Mantles. There's not going to be any more Ty Cobb cards or Honus Wagner cards. There is what there is. One may pop up. Someone goes through a barn and finds one randomly, but other than that, I mean, that stuff is not going to pop up. And people put that stuff in bicycle tires and they never protected them. Nowadays I feel like a 90-year-old man. Nowadays you open up a pack of cards and you take this really nice shiny card, you put in a sleeve, put in top load. Yeah. There's never going to be an opportunity for this stuff to be scarce because it is protected as soon as it comes out of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think going back a little bit to what you were saying about the Mantle cards versus like the printed scarcity. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the exact word.
Manufactured scarcity.
Manufactured scarcity. Thank you. But one of the things, it's a great article and definitely go check it out. But one of the things they talked about was how LeBron James had like 10 gold cards his rookie year, and now it's like 110 or something like that, and then there's just
every year it goes up 10.
Yeah.
And that was just the Prism gold cards, right, too. That's a good point, though. They're adding 10 every year. So this is something I've said over and over. I've stood on my soapbox here. It's like, if you're 20 years down the road, if you're somebody who wants to buy a LeBron James gold card out of 10, you have all these years worth of it. Like, you're not going to be super picky. You're not going to be able to afford the rookie card. So, you know, is there any difference to you between buying a 2015 and a 2019 or a 2022? No. So like, you're not talking about 10, you're talking about, you know, 100 different options to choose from now for that buyer in the future. So that's why that kind of stuff, you do have to realize, even if it's low numbered, if they're printing a lot of different low numbered stuff, that will impact the price of it over time.
I can speak to this personally because I've been looking at the Flawless Merino Pickett on card dual auto. You know, I have one from Immaculate that is off of PSA. Play the clip. I am never submitting with PSA again. And I'm kind of circling, looking, and Flawless, the max number is out of 25, but they have 25, they have 20, they have 15, they have 10, they have 5. And I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, give me actually the 1 out of 25. I think the foil matches the uniform better. Like, the 1 out of 5 is green. What blue and yellow, I guess, makes green. I mean, it's they're wearing these pick colors. So like, to me, it doesn't matter what the number is. I just think whatever card looks better makes the most sense to buy. But to your point, Mike, I mean, even like Brady cards, you can go back and there are plenty of rookies that you can get if you really, really want a Brady card. Same thing with LeBron. They have those. That's why I think the stuff from vintage and pre-war is so valuable, because you have one, right? I mean, Mantle has one. Bowman is considered his rookie, right?
It's technically his
rookie.
51. Yeah.
So he only has one rookie card. I guess you could consider his first tops as close to kind of a rookie card, but like, they don't have 30 different options. And nowadays, hundreds of different options, thousands of different options. Like, that's why nothing from this era, I'm really afraid to say, is not going to be worth much 20 years down the road. Maybe the people that were kids like we were back in the 80s and 90s will have nostalgia and want to go back and get some of that stuff. But the way kids spend money in the hobby now, I don't think that's a thing. Like, I think it mentioned in one of the articles you sent us, Mike, that the reason that cards from the 80s and 90s and early 2000s had such a boom was because people that collected back then and couldn't afford the cards because they were kids now have income. Perfect sense. Makes absolute perfect sense. The kids nowadays have, if you see videos and you go to shows, the kids nowadays have the money that we never had when we were growing up trying to buy cards. So it's not like they're going to have this nostalgia factor, because they probably already have all the cards they would have wanted from this era in this era, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because there probably isn't going to be the nostalgia in 20 years that there is now and there was 20 years ago. So, and like, people can't fathom the fact that people in the future may not want to collect a rainbow. Like, this is the thing. Like, yeah, it's a big thing now. Just because it is now doesn't mean in 10 years people are going to want to go back and collect every single color. Like, if you're not doing it from the start, there's no way with all the cards that are being made, you could ever go back and do that now. If you
not without spending a ridiculous amount of money.
like you would have to be
outrageous.
Loaded, like millionaire plus. So yeah, like there's a lot of stuff about the manufactured scarcity that just like it's not going to be as scarce over time as people think it is, and that'll be interesting to see what happens.
Go anywhere.
Yeah.
They're encapsulated. They're at the least in sleeves and top loads or put in boxes. I mean, when we started to collect EP, we're a little bit younger than Mike. When we started to collect, we would put things in sleeves or put them in, shoe boxes. They weren't exactly, they would brick and sometimes, but nowadays it feels like everything that someone pulls out of a pack, oh, that goes in a sleeve, that goes in a sleeve. And they make sure everything is pristine because they know the value of it when it's highly graded. We didn't know that back then. Grading was just starting. Mike, when you collected as a kid, I'm sure didn't you play games with your cards? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
So there's something special about that. There's something that makes it more impressive when you see a card from that era, even the early 80s or late 70s or whatever, when you see a card from that era and it's a PSA 8, it's like, wow, there can't be that many of these because this card was probably played with or traded back and forth with no sleeves, no top loaders. Nowadays, everything's in a sleeve.
All PSA 10s are not the same.
No, they are not the same at all. Right. Give me a 1970s or whatever PSA 8, PSA 7 over even a 2000. Give me a Brady from 2000 PSA 7. Because Brady, his cards were just being thrown into a box, into a shoe. No one knew who he was, right? Give me one of those over a PSA 10 from nowadays, and it's not even close.
I think one of the things that we've been talking a couple times about how the prices aren't going to go up. Historically, like there have been peaks and valleys, like over so many, like 10 years or whatever. There are peaks and valleys, like really big ones. But I don't think, and knock wood, we never will have another COVID pandemic. Or any kind of pandemic.
Hope not.
Well,
Pandy
during our lifetimes at least. So like that was another thing that kind of drove everything crazily high, and so I just don't.
Nostalgia went through the roof during those 2 years.
Yeah.
People were sitting at home watching, old rewatching DuckTales. I mean, like people did that because there was nothing new coming out, and people just got into that nostalgia. I need to do something with my brain, and cards was one of those big things that they occupied themselves with.
One of the points that Chris McGill made too was, and this is something we've been saying, part of the reason for the drop is the flippers that got into this for the easy money are heading out. Like that's what we said. I mean, it happens all the time. Anytime something spikes up like that, there are people out there that are making money off it. And when the money isn't as easy to make on it, they leave. So these people are leaving.
They don't want to do work.
Yeah. And it's a good thing. Like it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like if you look at where the cards were 5 years ago, like the market is way up over that now. And it goes back to like when we first got into this. I want to take it this direction. We were talking about, the bubble is going to burst. People just don't know it. Things are going to be worthless in a couple of years. Let's get into this, sell our cards and make our money. I remember being like, I have no emotional attachment to anything. I don't care. I'm just selling it. I'm going to make my money and get out of it. Here we are talking about cards on the podcast and YouTube. So, but this
episode 41.
I would have never expected Mike Lutz from Mike's Upper Deck having cards displayed behind him doing a video on YouTube. I would have never expected that.
But this brings me to my point. Like one of the differences now, we had the huge bump in the early 90s, but in the early 90s, you weren't drawing in all the people that from the 70s were huge collectors. This is like the first generational hump where collecting was big in the 90s. And now with the pandemic and with the card market getting hot, a lot of people like us that used to love cards, that were part of it for a long time, loved to collect, got back into it. And I don't think you're going to see the floor ever drop as far as it did back in the 90s and the early 2000s, because a lot of us have refound our love of this little hobby. And, you have all these people that dug through their cards during COVID and sent them in to get graded. Those people I feel like are people who genuinely like what they have, and they're not going to go, okay, well, I'm done. I'm back out of it. So I feel like, the whole market was obviously pumped up really high and it's not sustainable, but I really think overall, you're not going to see the huge drop down because of all the former collectors that love this as kids that now have disposable income that have gotten back into it for the right reasons. We didn't get back into it. Well, maybe we did kind of get back into it, think we're going to make money off the stuff we had.
You and I did for sure. EP on the other hand, did not. He's been collecting since forever. He never sells things, right? So, by the way, as an aside, Rob just came up. He found my other pit hat.
Where was it?
I have no idea. Where was it, Rob? In your car. It was in my car. All right, there we go. Thank you, Rob. He did suggest I look there. So, yeah.
That would typically be
the viewers who were worried, don't worry. I got my Joe Day pit hat back. But yeah, to your point, Mike, I remember going to my grandfather's house, going through my collection, and my whole thought process was, I'm going to find the Tom Brady cards I have. I'm going to send them to get graded, and I'm going to sell them. Could you imagine if you told that guy, you're going to be known as the Tom Brady guy? Like, that's crazy to me. Like, I got back into it, and I'm like, and it wasn't specifically Brady back then, but all the sets that I have of the Brady cards, I open up packs of that, right? So I look at the Playoff Prestige or the Playoff Absolute. I'm like, I went through those cards and I didn't have a Brady, but I'm like, I opened that stuff. It'd be cool to have that Brady from there. So it kind of like reinvigorated kind of that collector spirit that we have beyond just trying to just sell things and move on. And you know, I have a fun Brady collection, but same thing with my Marvel cards. I mean, it's like I really, really wanted to go and open up boxes of cards I couldn't open up when I was 10 years old, 11 years old. I couldn't afford a whole box. Like, I barely afford a whole box now. I mean, they're very expensive. But, you know, I could afford them more than I could back then, you know, from the financial point of view. So, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's this nostalgia. It's why people keep remaking movies and TV shows from when we were kids. We were just talking about this the other day at a text thread. They're remaking Night Court or bringing back Night Court, right?
Yeah,
right.
I mean, and we're like, some things don't need to be remade, but they're doing that because they know there's going to be this built-in audience who watch Night Court with their family.
I've been watching Quantum Leap on Peacock.
The new
the new one, yeah.
Is it any good?
It's not really that good. But
well, we're
I
not going to get endorsed by them.
But I enjoy it. I truly enjoy it. So,
like, there are shows I was joking about, you know, watching DuckTales. I've been watching DuckTales in the background if I play Madden, and I'm going to watch the reboot of it just to see what it's like after I'm done. You know, like this built-in audience, I think, is what cards got. You know, TV shows get it, movies get it. I think cards got it too. This built-in audience that was really interested in revisiting and kind of rejuvenating their collecting.
The Michael, you were talking about what you're talking about. They used in that article, the writer or the card letter guy used a term, the support floor has risen, and I love that as the way to look at it, because like, again, like you said, all of us, we have this money now, so our you know, the money's up here now as opposed to it was down here before everybody got back into it. And I agree 100% that I think there's a lot of us who are going to stay in it, and just the true collectors that were from back in the day and that got reinvigorated. And those are there are people. And I think that's, I look forward to seeing where the hobby goes from here, and whether that they lean into that. We'll see what kind of ups and downs we have as we go. But yeah, I love that term, support for.
So, I mean, obviously not going to be staying at the ridiculously high levels, but this is definitely more of a correction than a crash. And I do think all of us that got into it, the collector base, that floor that we've created is much higher than it's been in a long time. So I don't think people really need to be worried, especially people watching this podcast. Like, you have nothing to worry about. Like, we're not the flippers. People watching aren't the flippers. So we're all good. We can just enjoy it. Breathe easy. It's not going to be something where everything's worthless.
And if you knew us, the three of us personally, we are not sunshine and rainbows people. We are err on the side of everything's terrible. Err on the side. When we talk about fantasy football, we assume we're going to lose every game we're in. So for us to say correction, not a crash, is not sports card investor coming at you trying to pump and dump or whatever. It's not some of these other big channels trying to make sure you stay invested in them, so they're telling you there's no crash. It's legit. I mean, we feel that way. We have nothing to back that up other than our experience, but this feels
well. We do. We have all these numbers.
All these stuff. That's true.
Card ladders. So
yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, speaking of numbers, we're going to get into the December gem rate numbers. Gem rate is a great follow on Instagram. If you don't follow, make sure you do. But for the month of December, PSA graded 1.062 million cards, up 7%. CSG CGC only did 110,000. They're down 17%. SGC did 78,000. They were up 10%. And Beckett did 48K and they were down 5%. Sports card breakdown. PSA did 614,000 sports cards and 447,000 gaming and non-sports, like, which is absurd.
As an aside to that card ladder, one of the articles you sent us, I was shocked beyond all belief that gaming and like basically non-sports cards blow sports cards out of the water in terms of grading. I mean, that tells you kind of what the bubble we're in is, but that blew my mind.
CSG did 34,000 sports cards, down 18%, 76,000 trading card. SGC 73K sports cards, up 10%, and 23K non-sports. They don't do much at all with the trading card games and non-sports. And Beckett was 25K for sports and 5K for the trading cards. So not really any surprises here. We expected SGC would be going up because they ran the Bowman special and looks like it was pretty effective for them. But PSA is the story. They're still $1 million a month. Pretty impressive.
I mean,
very much so.
EP sent all those cards. I had
That's
nothing
true.
to do with
Yeah.
that. Play it.
I am never submitting with PSA again.
But yeah, I'll tell you. So the thing I'm really disappointed in is, man, CGC. I went out and I said, guys, my bold prediction for next year.
Well, let me stop you there.
Okay.
These numbers, they have not added the Marvel pop count to their pop counts yet. So
really,
none of their CGC
I could still be right, is what you're saying.
Could be. There's a chance.
I like that. There's a chance.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
all right.
I guess like sometime at the end of January, beginning of February, they expect to have the pop report up for the Marvel cards. So this isn't, it'll be more accurate once they get those numbers out.
Then I will reserve those comments for that. I'm really happy about SGC up 10%. I mean, they found their world, right? We kind of joke around like we have a ceiling. Mike's going to try and push through that glass ceiling, but we have a ceiling on our viewers because we do something different than other content creators, right? I feel like SGC, they're happy with where they're at. You know, they're not trying to push through the ceiling too much. The vintage, some of the modern stuff, they're not really into the gaming. They're not really into the non-sports. People who love them and will use them. And you can see that. And that 10% jump probably had a lot to do with, ironically, Ultra Modern EP with the Bowman. Was it Bowman Chrome?
Bowman Chrome, $9.
Special, yeah.
I mean, the plus 10% is nothing to sneeze at when you're talking about the numbers they're dealing with. Like, I think that's a good number to, like, as long as you're showing growth, where you see something like Beckett, which have they shown any growth since we've been looking at those numbers?
What was the breakdown? Sports, non-sports for Beckett. Mike, did you spell that out? Yeah.
Beckett did 25,000 sports and only 5,000 trading card and non-sports.
I also wanted to say, I think we look at, we're shocked by the grading, the trading card game numbers, but we're sports guys, and I think the thing is,
we're in our silo for sure.
Right. The thing is, like, if you think about the boom and the people that are our age or a little bit younger that are also getting the money right now, they were the Pokemon people. It was Pokemon was, still is a huge thing. But back then, I remember the fervor around Pokemon. So I'm not terribly surprised that those numbers are so high. I'm surprised they surpassed sports, but
was that crazy good business for you, Mike, when Pokemon came out?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Was that? Yeah.
I remember people coming
crazy.
in.
Yeah.
That was the thing that kept the lights on, and we just kind of had fun with the sports cards on the side. Was that kind
pretty
of
much? Yeah,
like?
Definitely was. Yeah, that was
post Pogs, right? Post Pogs. It was Pogs, then Pokemon. Yeah.
Pogs first, then Pokemon. Yeah.
Post comic books too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Comic books first, then Pogs, then Pokemon. So, yes. It'll be like we keep saying this, so it's going to be interesting to see what PSA's numbers are this month, because they've been running the trading card game special for $15, the sports card special for $15. So they've really been trying to get that. So now with the price change, it'll be interesting to see where they go in January. So, they could. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. You guys may know this. I don't. Is when we see the numbers, is that they're numbers that were added to the pop report, right? They're not, because I'm curious on how much the $15 special, because remember we kind of joked around it, but I think we were correct in saying that the reason that they put out the, hey, prices are going to go up in January, you better submit your cards now, that will still filter into January's numbers, right? We're guessing at least the first month. I mean, the first month of this year, you think, because it takes about 30 or so days for those $15 ones to get back, you're going to see that kind of bleed into January, maybe even February, before you get like an accurate.
And I have an order. I have an order I just sent in too. So
wow, thanks for asking.
You did it without me. This was my makeup order. But yeah, like we'll be able to see like how the timeline for the grading and stuff will be affected. I'm guessing my order is going to take a little longer than the order that you guys sent in, but mine was received on the 4th. It still hasn't been entered yet. So that'll be good to keep track of. That'll give us an idea of how fast they're getting through that. But yeah, there will be a little bit of a lag, I think, between maybe finishing up
February.
Yeah, maybe. So it'll be interesting to see what they do price wise, but very clear that they want to do $1 million. They can, not $1 million, 1 million cards. They do that every week.
Yeah.
But they want to do 1 million cards every month. So, and they're doing it. Like, how crazy? How crazy is that?
1 million cards at what, $27 a card, right? At least like that's probably average of probably $30 a card. So just $30 million. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I said about SGC when we first started looking at these gem rate numbers. I mean, they did 78, and I think when we first did this, they were right around 70. And I said, my whole point was, it depends on what their outfit looks like, right? I mean, if they have 10 really good graders and then people working in production and people who are, encapsulation and shipping and all that, if they have a small, tight group, they might be making crazy profit right now. $30 a card, now it's down to 24. I'm sure they want to be grading $500,000 or I'm doing it too, like 500,000 cards. Sure they want to be doing that, but maybe their business is not built out to do that, and they're very happy at making a very good profit at what they're doing. 70 to 80,000 cards a month is still a lot. Could you imagine talking to them back in 1999 or whatever, when we first started sending in cards and saying, oh, hey, by the way, the 4th best company is going to be grading 50,000 cards in a month. Yeah. Their minds would be blown by that. I'd love to see what those numbers were those first few months that when all three, Beckett, PSA, and SGC were in operation. I'd love to see what those numbers were from back then, because I can imagine it even comes close to a galaxy away from where it's at now.
I also feel like SGC, Joe, if you think about it, like they're so well respected, especially like within the vintage community and stuff like that. Like their grades, like they're known for having very accurate grades. So again, like staying in that lane, and like obviously every company wants to make more money. Like that's the bottom line. But I mean, they gotta feel pretty proud about what they do.
And Peter's, I mean, I watched so many interviews with Peter from SGC that he just seems like a genuine guy who really just wants to do the right, which is very unusual in cards. Do the right thing. Refreshing, not be a tool, like not be one of what did the Sports Card Radio call them? Like the cabal of, these super rich people. I mean, he seems genuine, and really that is refreshing. So hopefully that keeps that business kind of grounded to the point where they keep doing the good grading, the accurate grading, and then they're not trying to be PSA. I think they've come to terms with not being PSA.
Oh, yeah. They're never going to be PSA.
Right. We're good with not being PSA. Yeah. Let's be SGC and just accurately grade.
And people are definitely grading enough cards to keep multiple businesses in the black. Yeah. So Well, they also Gemrate also released the 2022 numbers. I'm just laughing because like I can't believe these numbers, but 15 million total cards items graded, 9.5 million sports cards in 2022. So I mean, PSA alone did 11.2 million cards in 2022, 7.4 million sports, and 3.7 million gaming and trade non-sports cards. SGC did 988,000 cards for the year, so they almost did 1 million. They're doing in a year what PSA is doing in a month now.
Yeah.
And CSG CGC did 1.4 million and 635K sports cards and 775K non-sports and gaming. And Beckett
that number will be double next year. That's another
probably.
I think that number will be double.
And Beckett did 748K. And like it's just,
and they were shut down for like a good portion of the year.
I know, it's crazy. We're addicted to grading in this country. Like, holy cow! Like those are big numbers. I don't know how sustainable they are, because like we talk about this all the time. There's a lot of people like us that went back through, dug through our stuff, and sent those cards in. Then we don't have the cards to send. Like the last order I sent in are mostly wrestling cards. I was looking for cards, but like with the combination of the market dropping and looking through stuff I had originally picked out to think about grading, it's really not worth it anymore. So I'm probably not going to send that stuff in unless grading would get cheap.
On top of that, the special that the three of us all used, you couldn't do, like I couldn't go back and look at 90MU. I had to focus on. So
I had that problem too.
The 5 cards, if you count the Marino dual auto, that's still in research and ID after a month, by the way. I'm very nervous if they lost that card.
Should be, yeah.
I emailed them about it, by the way. They're like, oh no, those orders usually take 120 days. I'm like, well, I got the 12 card one back really quick. But anyway, like that special, you couldn't run Marvel cards, or you couldn't run cards before, what was it, 1995?
It was 96, I think. I think 96 was the cutoff.
96.
So for me, the only things I sent were stuff I recently bought, and I had that Donald Driver metal card that I'm like, it's ridiculous that I'm sending this, but I really like this card, so I'm going to send it. Like, I wouldn't be able to find, if I needed to find 15 cards to send by myself, I definitely couldn't do it. 15 or 20 cards, whatever the minimum is.
Yeah, I've only sent in 11 cards so far, so I still have potential candidates that are PSA 10s. Not a ton of like high end stuff though, so I'm kind of in the same boat where like I definitely want to get some cards graded, but I'm looking for some cards to send in that can help pay for the order, because I'm some of my ones that I have end up getting 8s and 9s. They're not even.
To be fair, you still haven't paid me yet, and the VIG is running.
All right,
the VIG is running. To your original point though, Mike, about we're a country obsessed with grading. That goes back to what we were talking about 20 minutes ago, half hour ago at this point, is that's why nothing will be worth anything in 20 or 30 years, because everything's being encapsulated. Like there was a joke on Twitter, like people are like, and I do it too, I protect my slabs. We all have sleeves and stuff like that. But it's like, there's going to be a slab company to grade slabs. Like, so it's like putting a,
there probably will be.
Would that be out of the realm of possibility? I really don't think so. Give it another 6 months, it might be a thing. They might be developing in an hour.
Like early PSA slabs with like the low number or whatever on them, like in good condition, is
going to be worth more. Yeah,
it's going to be worth more. So they put that in a case,
which is ironic because they're generally worth less because people think that they're not graded to the standard of today.
Yeah.
/ they don't look as good because they like the lighthouse. So it's like it's gonna be it's people are weird.
A couple other number sets I want to go over here too. By category, the top graded item was trading card games, 4.4 million card games. Crazy. Basketball was second, 3.1 million. So you're 1.3 million less in basketball cards than trading card games. Baseball was at 3 million and football was at 2.1. Like, again, we're not trading card game guys, but like maybe I'm naive, but it feels like there are way more sets of sports cars put out than trading. Maybe there aren't, but wow, those numbers are just crazy.
EP, you're a Pokemon expert.
Well, yeah. I mean, a little bit. I have a few, but they put out several sets a year. But it's not like if you're talking baseball, like you have Panini and Topps both putting out multiple sets per year. So it's not and like. Yeah, it's weird. So people are just grading all the Pokemon, like again,
anything that comes out.
Do people play Pokemon anymore?
Like, I was going to ask that.
Yes.
Oh, do they?
They have tournaments. Yep.
Oh,
like it's kind of crazy that
do they use their PSA slab Pokemon cards?
No. There are some people who don't. They just put them in binders and save them. They're just like us guys.
I would imagine too there are a lot of people that don't care about Pokemon at all that are involved in grading into that just to make money off it.
I've watched several videos about Pokemon grading, and I have a couple that I'm gonna try to send in at some point. For those, as long as the surfaces look pretty good and they're centered well, you can usually get a 10 as long as there's no chipping around the back, which there's usually a blue border around the back, whatever.
With yours? When you send a handful of them,
well, he has had some that had no reason to get the grade.
The Japanese
like
ones,
a 5 or something.
I knew what to look for. I made sure I looked to see because I wasn't sure exactly what it went into Pokemon card grading, but I knew the holofoil surface, obviously, and the centering, the edges, the corners. But like I got 5s on almost every Japanese one I sent in, except another one I got a 10 on. And like even in the slab, I'm looking at these and I saw no difference whatsoever.
And you can tell in that reveal.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Happening right now? Like you were very confused.
I'll have to watch that. I haven't watched it in a while, but yeah.
Throw that up there. Throw that link up there. Right? You love doing
that. But they, I mean, I think they are like I don't want to say relatively easy to grade, but I've seen some reveal videos where people, like especially though, like a year ago,
manufacturing better. Do you think? Like, do they come out of the pack better?
Well, I think. Let me tell you, I have empirical evidence that shows that the production of them is better because the gem rate of the
more 10s,
trading card games is like 67%, whereas sports cards with PSA of the modern like. Within the last couple of years is 50.1%. So they're obviously being made better than a lot of the sports cards are because they're, like you said, everything's being thrown in a sleeve, being thrown in a top load, or
whether it's Pokemon or whether it's Prism, they're all being thrown in sleeves and top loads. So that just kind of goes to the point. Yeah, you're right. Like that shows that they are definitely coming out of the production process better.
And you could see where that would be driving up people sending them in because we said like this hobby is addicted to sending in cards to get graded
and addicted to 10s.
And the feeling that you get when you get a 10 is pretty incredible.
Pretty great.
And they just
both felt it last month.
Yeah. People want to win. So if they're going to win and they know that they can send in the Pokemon cards, like if I send in 20 cards and 10 of them are Pokemon and all 10 Pokemon come back 10s, then I win. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I can see that.
That's a good way to put it. They want to win. I like that. I will say about the numbers between baseball and football, and I consider football a more popular sport. I think to explain that number in my head as I was reading it, because I was like, holy crap, I was kind of surprised. Prospecting, right? Is that the answer to why there's more graded baseball cards? Like you have your set number of stars in football. You're going to send all of their cards in, the Burrows, the Herberts, the Tuas, the Chase, the Jeffersons. But with baseball, you can send in someone who might not even play in the majors for 3 years, 4 years. You're sending a lot more cards. Is that why?
I think it's a little bit of that, but also baseball, like the potential is that all 9 players on the field at any given time are gradable. Where in football, you have a running back,
quarterback, and
quarterback, and a wide receiver or two, maybe a really good tight end. But then also you have, if you look like the rich history of baseball, there are so many more baseball cards and so many more players. Like again, looking at all 9 players, going all the way back to like I
couldn't even tell you what position Mantle played. I couldn't even tell you what position Mickey Mantle played. I couldn't, but he's a baseball player.
I think he was a pitcher.
Right.
Yeah, I know he wasn't a pitcher. I know he wasn't
closer.
Was he outfield? Was he outfield or first base?
Second baseman.
Second baseman.
No, it wasn't second base. He was outfielder.
He was outfielder. Okay. But that to my point, it's like I know Mantle is a great baseball player, but like you couldn't just randomly say that about a football player. I think every position a football player would play because it's just ingrained in us. With baseball, it's just they're a baseball player. Unless they're a pitcher or a catcher, you kind of know otherwise. At least as a non-baseball person, Mike and EP.
Well, we're running a little long today, but I want to get to the one final set of numbers here. The actual gem rate number for sports cards, because I think these are really interesting. For everybody out there that thinks that PSA is the toughest grader, the numbers just don't back that up. Cards from the 2020s, PSA's gem rate is 50.1%. Beckett is 59.6. Of course, we know with their 9.5 and the way they do it, it's not really equivalent. SGC only 35.9% and CSG 38.2. Now, obviously, those two companies have a 9.5.
Right.
We've said all along the 9.5 really holds down the 10, and those numbers seem to show it. From the 2010s, PSA is 49.2, Beckett's 47.4. SGC is 32.4 and CSG is 38.4. From the 2000s, PSA is 24.5, Beckett is 20.6, SGC is 8.6, and CSG is 20.6. And from the 1990s, PSA is 14.5%, Beckett's 14.7, SGC is 5.5, and CSG is 11.8. So I really would not have suspected that SGC would be so much tougher on some of that, like other than just the 2020 stuff where the 9.5s come into play. But wow, those numbers.
I mean, if
why people are sending cards to PSA,
right? If you want an accurate graded card, you send it SGC. If you want it, in EP's words, if you want to win, you don't.
Send your Pokemon cards to
send your Pokemons to PSA.
Absolutely,
you're not going to send them to SGC. I mean, it just makes perfect sense that we consider them accurate because we, in our heart of hearts, know if a card's an 8, it's an 8. If we send it to PSA, we're hoping it gets a 10, even though we think it's an 8.
Right.
Like, okay, maybe I'll get a grader on a good day. With SGC, it's like, no, if I send in a card that I think is an 8, it's going to be an 8. But PSA, we sent some cards, EP, and there were cards you thought were 8s that ended up being 9s that you thought were 9s.
I thought 7s. I thought their 7s were going to be turned into 9s. Yeah, the two Kobe Hoops rookies. Yeah,
and they came in 9s. I mean,
looking at them, they look better than I remember looking at them. When I was looking at them in the slabs, like I was pretty harsh on myself on the cards. But I mean, still, like there's enough issues on there where I wouldn't be surprised if they were 7s.
You were going to bed at night, kind of cuddling up against your PSA order. That was amazing.
It was.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. I would have too. Yeah, absolutely.
Mike, what was the SGC number for the 90s cards again? It was like 5.
Their gem rate is 5.5%, I believe.
I just bought that box of 19. I bought a box of 1991 score, and just thinking about the card quality from the 90s, the card stock quality, I'm shocked that that's only 5%.
Yeah,
because that's
again,
was so
their
good.
9.5 holds down their 10 number too.
Yeah.
But
right,
I don't think you can really argue that if you're looking for a consistent card, an SGC 10 is a better card overall than a PSA 10. Like
probably the best card, right? The SGC 10 is probably the best card you can get. Like
just the setup of their grading scale, because PSA doesn't have 9.5. So if you have that in between the 9 and 10, they need to determine which side of that they're going to go to, and
how happy the grader is that day. It really does. If people don't think that, I'm sorry, you're wrong.
And a lot of it too, you're coming down to the fact that PSA has a lot more new graders. They're grading a lot more cards and they're going through. So they're probably not looking at them quite as long as SGC when they're getting them.
And there's a that's not, I mean, 800-pound elephant in the room. I mean, they make money for higher cards. I mean, SGC charges you a flat rate for the most part. Charge you a flat rate. PSA has an incentive to grade cards higher. I mean, put the cards on the table, pun intended. I mean, they have an investment in cards being graded higher, which kind of butts against the whole pop report thing, and maybe they're controlling the pop report and things like that. But they do have a financial incentive to grade your cards better.
Do you guys think, we've all opened lots of cards and we've bought other cards. Do you think a 50% gem rate is too high? What do you think? What do you think gem rate should be? What do you think gem rate should be?
For Ultra Modern, it should be like 90. Honestly, I mean, the production is so bad with Panini, but
I think a card should be an 8 coming out of the pack, and then a 9 is a really good version of it, and a 10 is like the best version of it. So I feel like that's how I look at it anyway. So what do you guys again like? Is 50% too high for a gem rate? Do you guys think that is a bloated number?
I don't think so. Like I feel like it should be higher, but the production is bad. And Joe, you said Panini Topps is bad too. I have a number of autographs from 2021 Finest Wrestling WWE, and every single one of those cards have scratches, like lines, and like I looked at the pop report for that, and they're only like a 35% gem rate for those. So it's clearly a production issue. And, things are done a lot differently now than they used to be back in the 90s. The cards, I would argue, were probably manufactured better by like the late 90s and early 2000s than they are now. Like some of the processes.
The competition with all the companies had something.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know what changed, but clearly if you're looking at the numbers now, I'm kind of shocked that it's only 50%. You feel like, and some of it too is because a lot more cards are refractors now. And we know that they are much more susceptible to some kind of surface wear than other stuff. And, they're going through the production process, being shoved in packs and going through, just watch the automated packing system. You'll understand why they end up being scratched.
I love reveals when people are like, I just pulled this from a pack. How did it get an 8? I'm like, have you not been looking at the cards? I mean, the production is not great, dude. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that the production back in the 90s and early 2000s just seemed better because you're getting just as good, a gem mint rate, and people weren't sleeving and top loading everything back then. Now it's like it's literally coming straight from the pack off to PSA. Or SGC or whoever.
We're approaching 30 years of chromium technology. Mm-hmm. How have they not figured out print lines?
How's it gotten worse?
Yeah, how are more dimples and print lines now than there were in 1994 Finest?
And that makes me upset that, Mike, you're saying that Topps is no better than Panini because I'm going to be getting into Topps again.
And I saw somebody posting on Twitter, like, just look at the refractors from the 90s and look at the ones today. They're completely different. Like,
the shine,
they are not as nice looking now as they were. Yeah,
I will say, I think this year's Topps Chrome, like the shine was better this year than it has been in like Bowman and like the last couple of years of Bowman and other products. But also, I have
compare it to like 2001.
Oh Bowman. No, I mean,
it's not even close.
Yeah. No. I haven't opened any myself yet, but Topps Chrome Update apparently is horrible as far as dimples and print lines and off centering, like a really, really bad production based on the stuff I've seen on Twitter. Again, I haven't opened it myself, but it sounds like of all the products, the last Chrome product of the year, and it's really botched pretty
poorly. Sad for Topps Chrome football, man. I mean,
they'll have it all figured out by then.
Obviously, fully on board. I'll let him know. I'll let him know that I'm going to start buying their product.
All right, guys, that was a long chat today, but we had a lot of stuff to cover, and I think we covered it all. So there you go. There you were, Paul. There was the shot, and hopefully he took one too.
Cheers, Paul.
Good chat this week, guys. I'll see you next week. Take care.
See you, boys.